People of Africa, people of dignity, people of struggle and hope, receive our greetings wherever you are, on the African continent, across the diaspora, and throughout the global African family. Today is Saturday, the 7th of February 2026, and I speak to you at a decisive moment in our collective history. I am Thomas Sankara, speaking from the United Nations of Africa, a platform created to affirm one simple truth. Africa must speak for herself, decide for herself, and defend herself. Before we go any further, I call on every African listening to this message to invite your brothers and sisters, your families, your friends, your neighbors, and your communities. Share this message widely on WhatsApp, on Telegram, on Facebook, and on every social media platform available to you. Subscribe to this channel, like this broadcast, leave your comments, and share it far and wide, because unity begins with communication, and liberation begins with awareness. Today, we must speak clearly and without fear about the posture of the United Nations toward Burkina Faso and toward African nations that have chosen to defend their sovereignty. Through the office of the so-called High Commissioner for Human Rights, the United Nations has demanded that Burkina Faso reverse its sovereign decision to dissolve political parties and reconsider other internal measures taken in the context of war and national survival. Let us be absolutely clear. This demand represents an unacceptable interference in the internal affairs of a sovereign state. Burkina Faso is not a commission of the United Nations. Burkina Faso is not a subordinate territory. Burkina Faso is a member state of the United Nations, equal in law and dignity to every other nation seated in that chamber. Africa is not on probation. Africa is not a classroom of children to be lectured. Africa is not a laboratory for foreign political experiments disguised as democracy. We must ask necessary and uncomfortable questions. When the president of a UN member state, a sovereign and independent country, was abducted under false accusations, did the United Nations raise its voice? When those accusations collapsed and the truth of that abduction became undeniable, did the United Nations demand justice or accountability? The answer is no. When presidents are humiliated, when presidential aircraft are diverted, when diplomatic immunity is violated, and when passports are cancelled in political pursuits, the United Nations remains silent. But when African states take measures to defend themselves against terrorism and destabilization, suddenly the United Nations discovers urgency, vocabulary, and moral outrage. This is not neutrality. This is not justice. This is selective morality, applied according to power and interest rather than principle. The United Nations claims concern for political pluralism, yet refuses to confront reality. Political parties are not sacred objects. They are tools, and like all tools, they must serve the people or be set aside. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and other nations of the Sahel are countries at war. These wars were not chosen by our people. They were imposed through destabilization, armed proxies, and the deliberate export of insecurity. In this context, we must ask honestly, what role did certain political parties play? Did they mobilize the people against terrorism? Did they strengthen national unity? Did they defend the sovereignty of their nations? Or did some of them echo foreign narratives, undermine morale, and act as relay points for external interests? A people fighting for survival cannot afford internal sabotage disguised as democratic virtue. The hypocrisy becomes even clearer when we examine the United Nations' own resolutions. The Security Council has adopted numerous texts obliging member states to combat terrorist financing, arms trafficking, and cross-border destabilization. Yet when terrorist attacks occur in our regions using sophisticated weapons and drones, where is the investigation? Where is the condemnation? Where is the accountability? Weapons circulate freely, militants cross borders with ease, and financing networks operate openly, yet silence prevails. The United Nations claims it has no mandate to act, even while sitting atop dozens of counter-terrorism resolutions. This contradiction is not ignorance. It is a political choice. Africa did not wake up one day surrounded by terror. This crisis has a history, and that history leads directly to Libya. In 2011, under a UN mandate allegedly designed to protect civilians, a sovereign African state was destroyed. A no-fly zone became a regime change operation. The mandate was exceeded. A government was eliminated. What followed was chaos. Weapons flooded the Sahel, armed groups multiplied, borders collapsed, and entire regions were destabilized. Africa warned the world. Africa was ignored. Those responsible were never sanctioned. Those who exceeded the mandate were never judged. And today, the same institution lectures us about governance, legality, and political pluralism. Let the record be clear. Africa is not invading anyone. Africa is not bombing foreign cities. Africa is not imposing sanctions on entire populations. Africa is defending herself. Our villages are attacked. Our farmers are displaced. Our children are orphaned. Our people live under constant threat. And when we respond, we are accused. This inversion of reality cannot stand. We are the victims, not the aggressors. The United Nations often speaks of democracy while ignoring its own historic commitments. Decolonization was not a suggestion, it was a promise. Yet in 2026, entire territories remain under colonial administration. Independence movements are repressed. Referendums are delayed, manipulated, or ignored. Where is the urgency then? Where are the communiques? Where are the sanctions? Where is the outrage? Once again, silence. But something has changed, and this is why the tone of Africa today is different from the past. The African people are no longer asleep. Students question, workers organize, youth connect across borders. Millions now understand that sovereignty is not granted. It is taken, defended, and preserved. Africa is rediscovering her voice. Africa is reclaiming her dignity. Africa is refusing to be managed from afar. This is not a call for hatred. It is a call for clarity. It is not a rejection of cooperation, but a rejection of domination. Africa does not reject dialogue. Africa rejects hypocrisy. Africa does not reject institutions. Africa rejects submission. We believe in international cooperation, but cooperation must be based on equality, respect, and mutual interest, not paternalism and coercion. People of Africa, this struggle is not abstract. It is lived daily in our villages, our cities, and our families. It is about land, security, dignity, and the future of our children. Do not let others speak for you. Do not let others decide for you. Do not let others divide you along artificial lines. Unite, organize, and participate in shaping Africa's destiny. Once again, I ask you to invite everyone you know to join this movement. Subscribe so our voices are not silenced. Like this broadcast so the message travels further. Comment so debate remains alive. Share this message so Africa speaks with one voice. Unity is our strength, and consciousness is our first weapon. We are not a commission. We are not subjects. We are sovereign peoples. Our sovereignty is not negotiable. Our dignity is not conditional. Our future will be decided by us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for standing firm. Thank you for believing in Africa. We will meet again soon for another major topic, because the struggle for African unity, sovereignty, and justice continues. Long live Africa! Long live African unity!